Rick Dior, and today we're going to take a look at two classic vintage snare drums. So on my left, your right, we have a 1961 Ludwig Jazz Fest. And here on my right, your left, we have a 1963 Ludwig Pioneer snare drum. So they're both silver sparkle. This one's experienced a lot of fade. It's actually part of this drum set. It exactly matches, as you see. And this one was kept in a case its whole life pretty much, so it's kind of mint and it didn't lose any of its sparkle. So that's the deal with these. If they're exposed to a lot of light over time, they will have some fade. I like the fade, actually. So let's talk about these drums. I hope I get all my facts right. I am not a drum historian, but I do my best. So this drum here, this Jazz Fest, was considered their best snare drum for a while throughout the 60s. Their wood drum, their best wood drum, I should say. Right now, they're pretty expensive. They can go upwards of $1,000 for a mint condition one, and then down from there. The favorite finish of everybody is that Ringo Pearl finish. This was the drum that Ringo used on the early Beatles records. I believe the construction of this, as well as this, is a mahogany, poplar mahogany, a 3-ply construction. And what they did was they used this white paint. I think they called it Rezo something or other. I'll look and put it on the screen here. But all these drums, the 60s drums, were coated in that. And they stopped doing that, I believe, in the 70s sometime. So the big differences between the Pioneer right here, which is, let me get the number right for you. I got a little catalog here. This would have been number 490, the non-lacquered version. The lacquered version would be 491, I think so. And it's got the P83 strainer, great strainer. I have many, many, many drums with this strainer, as does the Jazz Fest. Now the Jazz Fest model number is the famous, let's see here. This would be the 908P, which would be the pearl. There was a 908L, which would be the lacquer for these drums. Now, they're both 14-inch by 5 drums. The main difference between them is the Jazz Fest has 8 lugs. The Pioneer has 6 lugs, which makes the Jazz Fest easier to tune, and you can tune it up much higher. The Pioneer, usually you got to struggle to get it up to my favorite tuning for a 5-inch drum, which is an A on the top. I tune the bottom head to an F sharp. That's my tuning normally for a 5 by 14-inch drum. These drums do sound really good low, but I prefer to get my low sounds out of a deeper drum and then tune that up high so it feels better. That's how I do it. I have hundreds of snare drums, and I'm going to do a series here. I'm going to start a series here called Snare Drum of the Week, where it'll take a while, years, but every week I'll show you a different snare drum that I own, tell you about it, maybe play it some and play it on the drum set. But I wanted to show you these because I get a lot of questions about, what should I buy, a Jazz Fest or a Pioneer. Now, as far as the mufflers go, if you bought an early 1960, 1961 Ludwig that was a Jazz Fest, you'd probably get the round muffler. Hopefully you can see that. That's the round one. It's got the round knob. Later on, they started doing the baseball bat muffler, which you see here. And I believe this one is a white one, not the red one. Okay? It's hard to tell with Ludwig because a lot of times they just put the drums together with whatever they had on hand. So you'll see some real anomalies in the Ludwig world. Sometimes they were short on parts. They'd put baseball bat mufflers, or if they had round mufflers. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. Or people changed them out. So there's no telling about it. Okay, but if you look through some of the catalogs, there's a really good resource online that has all the Ludwig catalogs. You can see these drums, how they developed over the years. I'll try to put that resource in the description to this video. So the main thing we're talking about here is the sound of the drum. What makes the sound of the drum different? Well, they do sound very different to me, both these drums. I believe they are the same shell construction. The Pioneer was meant as a student drum. It was very cheap. Back in those days, you could get one for a grand total of $54 in chrome and $49 in nickel, while the Jazz Fest set you back $65 in nickel, $71 in chrome. Not sure what that is in today's dollars, but it's probably in the several $100 area. Now, the snares on these drums, these are original here, and the bottom head, though, is an ambassador snare. Normally, I'd use a diplomat snare, but I found on the Jazz Fest drums, I liked a bottom head that's the ambassador snare. I'm always experimenting. And you'll see sometimes there's an issue with these drums where you can't get the snares tight enough. That thicker head helps with that. Also here, I did sand the snare beds. I don't know if you could see that, but I put some light snare beds in there, and that also helps. I have not done that on the Pioneer drum, just because I don't use it as much. Okay. Now the original snares on the Pioneer would have looked like this, with the rubber ends here, and these get messed up pretty good. I just wanted to show you what they looked like. Okay. So I normally take these off, and I just put modern snares on. The snares I have on here are just the Ludwig snares once again. The later snares. They're much better sounding and more dependable. Okay, so let's talk about the sound differences and what I hear. Like I said, I try to tune these both to an A. Let's see if it's holding. Pretty close, right? And as I said before, that's the pitch that I like for these drums. So I like to test them without any muffling, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take this muffling off. I'm going to check out the resonance of them. Turn this off here. And to do that, what you want to do is put a towel on one, because the A is going to carry over to the other and make it ring more. So that's the Jazz Fest, and here's the Pioneer. So I'm not sure what I'll hear in the control room, but what I hear here is the Jazz Fest rings quite a bit more, a little bit more. And also the Jazz Fest seems to be a little bit brighter to me. A little more lively. It also feels better to me. That's a big thing with me, is how a drum feels. And I would say it's probably those extra lugs, because I can get a little more tension more evenly. Now, this Pioneer, I had to crank it up quite a bit to get it up to that A. I'm almost at the top of my tuning range, where I got a long way I could tune this. I could probably get a B or even a C, which is way choked, out of this Jazz Fest, because I got a lot more tuning. Now, the rims here, I believe these are chrome over brass, or for these right here. No nickel on these drums here. All the hardware is chrome. A little bit of pitting on this Pioneer, none on this one. This one was kept, like I said, in a case, basically almost new old stock here. So this one here probably used cheaper rims. And I'm not even sure these are the original rims. But if you want to dry a drum up, You could put some die-cast hoops on there. That will dry it up and make it heavier as well. But I like the original rims, which is what is on this drum. So now let's turn the snares on and play them both for you. And here's the Jazz Fest. And here's the Pioneer. I'll tell you what, we're going to tighten these snares up just a little. The fact that it does not have any snare beds whatsoever does affect the snare sound. The snares will be a little bit looser sounding, wet sounding. Now, if I didn't mention it before, I do have coated Remo ambassadors on both these drums, and they're fairly new. Okay. Now, I do use dampening on these drums. I use these little pieces of leather. You've seen that many times before on this channel. If I don't want the drum to ring. So we'll do that, and we'll play them again for you now. And I'll go back and forth. So you probably hear it, the Jazz Fest drum is just a lot more controlled, a lot tighter. It's got a pop to it. Where the Pioneer, which is a great sounding snare drum. Just looking at something here. I do have to check the badges. I forgot about that. I'll do that in a second. It's a great sounding drum. It's a little bit looser sounding, a little bit wetter. Which in my opinion makes it a really good sounding jazz drum. And a great deal. You can get these pretty cheap, under $300 normally, although they've probably gone up and down over the last several years in price. Sometimes someone will do a record with one and then all of a sudden it'll go crazy. But there's thousands of them out there, so you should be able to find one easily. Okay, so let's look at the badge here. This does have a serial number, 257104. And that's the serial number. Now this one's going to be pre-serial number. I'm positive because I've looked at it. Yeah. So no serial number on this one. This one is earlier, like I said, but just kept in amazing condition. So I believe this is probably from 63 to 65, somewhere around there. Maybe one of you could check that number for me. All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to play these on the kit. I have a vintage 1961 Ludwig kit. And a lot of times I'll use this Pioneer. It's not the original snare. I showed you the original snare. It was a chrome over brass Super Ludwig in a couple of videos, probably about 20 videos ago. So that's what I came with it. But and this does have Rogers hardware. Don't let that throw you off. A lot of times the dealers would put that on because it was just better hardware. So we'll go over to the kit. I'll play both these drums, and you can tell me what you think through your emails and comments. So here we are at the kit, and I've got the Jazz Fest up first. No muffling. So this is kind of my fun kit. I just take this kit out when I want to have fun. Sometimes I use it for recordings, but it's just a really old kit. Reminds me of the drum set that I grew up with, which was a Ludwig drum set, my first drum set. It is a little bit rickety, but it's a very deep sounding kit, as you can see. And that's one thing the Ludwig drums had, is a specific sound. It's not like a Craviotto or Doc Sweeney or even a Sonar or a Gretsch. I have all those kits. It's a little bit different. So this snare drum fits that character. It's kind of dry but warm and woody. Now let's loosen up the snares just a little. And again, there's no muffling on it yet. And I'll let you see what it sounds like with very loose snares. So it makes a great jazz drum, you know, jazz fest, right? When the snares are a bit looser. Now I'll put on some muffling. And this works better for kind of drier funk stuff. And we'll tighten up the snares again. So it works great for that kind of stuff. It's got a lot of pop to it. All right, let's put the the Pioneer up here. Okay, still tuned to the same note, which is an A. Much lighter drum. And we'll start without any muffling here. So a bit thinner, but very quiet. It's a good quiet drum. Sometimes it sounds a little toy-like, especially when it's not muffled. Let's put some muffling on. And this makes a big difference, as you'll see. Yeah, I like it. It's a great little drum, cheap drum, light, but it's not a jazz fest. Now, one little thing before we go, I'm going to compare the Jazz Fest to a Ludwig Super chrome over brass drum. That's a big one because that's their best metal drum against their best wood drum. So we'll put the Jazz Fest back here first, and we're going to play both of them unmuffled at first. As you see, the muffling makes a huge difference. And you'll be able to use the timeline that I'm going to put up here to go back and forth between the two. So that's muffled, and this will be unmuffled. All right, now let's put the Super on there, unmuffled. This drum's heavy, so I gotta be careful I don't hurt myself. Once again, this has the round non-muffler. I believe both these drums are the same exact year, 61. So they would have been in the catalog hanging out together. So these are all both pre-serial number drums. All right, this drum might be a little louder. So from where I am, it's definitely louder, a little thicker. Now this drum, I tuned it up to it's a little higher than I usually have it. See if I have a drum key here. So usually I tune my chrome over brass drum just a little bit lower. And I will muffle it as well. So let's just take a minute here and do that. It'd be worth it for me just to hear it. So this is probably going to be around a G tuning. And we'll put a little bit of muffling on it. All right. Great drum as well. So if you had a jazz fest and a chrome over brass drum, that probably covered just about everything, I would think. You could play all kinds of styles with it. It'd be pretty expensive, but those two drums are, or these two drums are just great. Now I have lots and lots of snare drums, as I always say, but these are two of the best snare drums ever made. And they feel great, they sound great, and obviously, since they're both over 60 years old, they're reliable. So all this is original hardware, all in great shape, no broken lugs, no broken strainers. The snares on that drum, the Jazz Fest are original, and the snares on this drum are original. You see the rubber ones on here, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully I didn't leave too much out. And we're going to do that snare drum a week thing. So you'll probably see these drums pop up again, and I'll show you close-ups of all of them. And just as always, just email me with any questions or leave it in the comments on the page. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.